don't ever think you lose your man card because you're vacuuming the house or you're cooking or you're preparing dinner for the wife when she come home. Right? She's working late.
Yeah.
You have to be that example and get rid of that. Oh man ain't supposed to do it. No,
Yeah.
no. Maybe a single man ain't supposed to do it, but a husband.
Yeah.
You help your wife out because at the end of the day, you guys are a team, right? When you were single, it's about me. When you was with her, it was about us. Now you have kids, it's about them, right? But don't forget your spouse too. You need your alone time. Get that date. Go out once or every 2 weeks, right? Get that in there because the one thing we don't realize when we have these young kids, we're preparing them how to live outside, but no one's preparing us how to live without them.
Hey, they didn't think I would do it, but I did it. Really having it, really winning. Was times that I thought I'd forever be sinning and spending whatever to stand on the business. But God bless the game, did it all but a sinning. All the shots they let off, but they ain't hitting. All the shots we let off, they ain't mentioned was hitting. Go ask why he's fighting them limping. Never change, I'm the same as you send me. The only thing changes the pay for my video. Can't forget about the diamonds and chains on my pendant was starving, but now we each stay for a living. If we ever fell out, you was fake or we can switch sides, don't be standing on. But yet I'm the biggest, ain't changing my clique, rep to 6 disrespect and get put in that dick.
I won't let them change me. I remain.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Basement Club Podcast. In case you forgot, I will remind you, I am the NCO with the most, Philip Taylor. And the guest I have with me today, he's been an elusive one, schedule conflicts and trying to get things together, but I finally got him. Currently works here at Hanscom Air Force Base, construction specialist, Air Force veteran. Please welcome to the clubhouse, Mr. Mohamed. But I call him my man Mo.
All right.
How you doing, sir?
Good. Thank you for having me there, Sergeant Taylor, aka Philip.
Yes.
Yep. So Mohamed Samshair. Yep. You got it all right. Construction inspector. Yes, sir. First podcast.
So I like to ask all my guests this. Whenever you hear about yourself, some of the things that you've done or the things that you're doing now, some of the accomplishments that you have, you kind of cringe a little bit. Like, what's the thought process when you hear other people talk about yourself?
Well, I often don't hear people talk about me, not in a bad way, but I actually see their actions. And for example, I'm also a union electrician.
Yes, sir.
By trade, electrical license and everything. So if I don't have a government job, I'm working, putting up some type of a building. But I've had plenty of apprentices in the past. And although I've never been a foreman, they always looked at me as foreman material. And to my surprise, a lot of them became foremen. Some of them even became general foremen.
Nice. And
like I said, I don't really hear too much compliments, nor do I look for them.
Right.
My job is as an electrician is to instill that good stewardship, craftsmanship, and overall be a good person to our brothers and sisters, because we have females in the trade as well.
Yes, sir. So I know you're originally from New York, Brooklyn. Is that correct?
Yeah.
So for a young Mo growing up in Brooklyn, how was it? What were some of the things that you did to stay out of trouble?
Wow.
And what was childhood like for you?
So let's see. I lived in Brooklyn from 1983 to 2011.
Okay.
And my whole family had businesses on the block, Fulton between Logan and Norwood Avenue.
Okay.
And if you want to know a little bit about Brooklyn, where I grew up, there's a Netflix series called, a documentary called The 7-5.
Okay.
And in that picture, there's a NYC cop looking back. You see his back looking at you.
Right.
Ties into Dirty Cops. But growing up in Brooklyn, I guess when your family owned businesses on the block, you tend not to mix with the wrong crowd.
Right.
But you meet everybody from the good person to the evil person, but they're a different person when they come into your place of business.
Right.
So they wear a different mask. But when they get to really know you and you get to really know them, you actually see they're actually good people. They're just caught up with a bad environment, if you will.
Right.
So growing up in Brooklyn, how did I keep out of trouble? Worked out. I had good friends, you know. I had put it this way, there's like I said, there's evil people
Right.
or people that just do bad things, right?
Right.
Make bad choices. And them seeing us as young people, they do the right thing. The old heads, right? Old school as we know it.
Yep.
They'll tell you, hey man, just go to school, learn a trade, stay out of these streets. I wish I had someone like me to tell me that now at your age.
Yes, sir.
But yeah, stay out of trouble and just no matter how hard and difficult and challenging life gets, just keep going at it. Don't fall back because it's easy to fall off track.
I heard you mention Fulton Street.
Yeah.
Did you ever run into Biggie Smalls?
Nah.
You ever ran into him?
No. They shot a movie. It's called Amongst Friends.
Yeah.
That was shot on our block, right on the corner. And in a certain clip, you'll see our video store. I think it was a video store at the time. So we had a video store,
Yes, sir.
a flower shop, gift shop. My mom, you know. So as far as celebrities, I ran into that when I became more of an electrician, union electrician. Let me say union because I'm a straight up union guy.
Yep.
I'm with IBEW, which is International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers.
Yes, sir.
So with the union I worked in when we were in New York City, I started with Local 3, one of the biggest unions in the IBEW because we're in all 50 states.
Yes, sir.
And I ran into I used to run across celebrities and didn't even know I'm running across the celebrities. Quick story. We're pushing down this, me and a journeyman, we're pushing this big 500 KC mill reel down the hallway. And from my peripheral, I could see, you know, a few people here and a few people there. And we're pushing this reel. And I see the journeyman. He's like this. And I'm looking at him. And so we get to the end of the hall. I'm like, dude, you never seen a girl before? He says, you know, at that time I was young, I was 26. He says, kid, you know who that is? I says, no. Oh shit, that's Alicia Keys. So he said, no shit, let's keep going. I'm not going back. But that was at was it Madison? No, it was Rockefeller Center. So I worked at Madison Square Garden, Rockefeller Center.
Yes, sir.
And if I remember the name correctly, I think it was the Good Morning show that they used to air every morning.
Yeah.
So every morning I used to walk by the crowd and, you know, all the sets, the areas where the normal crowd couldn't walk by, and I'll see Pussycat Dolls and whoever was there at the time. But yeah.
So you brought up that your family had a lot of businesses.
Yes.
So with that entrepreneurial spirit has always been inside you. When you told your family that, hey, you know, I want to get this military thing to try, what was that initial conversation like? And did they try to deter you and try to make you, you know, focus more on the family business to keep that going?
Well, I pretty much grew up without my father. He left them when I was 8. Him and my mom, they divorced. Not sure why. But everybody has their story, right? And if I wasn't there, I wouldn't know the truth. So as far as the family business, so my mom had 3 businesses at once on Fulton. And you think you own the business, but the business owns you.
Right.
Her hours of operation were from 10 in the morning to 10 at night.
Wow.
7 days a week.
Wow.
But we had school, she has kids.
Yep.
So she was up 6 o'clock, 5 o'clock, getting us all ready, right? Breakfast, make sure we're good. And then when the business closed, it closed at 10.
Right.
Didn't mean you close, you clock out on a regular 9 to 5 and you're out. No, she has to do inventory, count the register, clean the store. So by the time she got home, which we lived upstairs from the business, so that was a big plus.
Yes, sir.
She was going to bed, you know, I don't know, between 12 and 1. So yeah, and she's been working in the store, like I said, my whole family, since she was as young as I can remember, 15.
Wow.
From what she told me. So from 15, 14, she was working the family business, stores, grocery stores, and yeah, so she developed that, and she saw that life wasn't, people think you're rich,
Right.
but they don't see the overhead and the cost of everything.
Right.
They don't see that you're a regular mom and pop shop, and all your friends and family want discount.
Right.
But these same friends and family don't go ask, big labels like Hennessy, hey man, give me a discount.
Yeah.
No, they're ready to ask the mom and pop trying to put their kid through school. So long story short, it wasn't the life that I wanted.
Right.
I once came across a quote that said this. The quote said, when you buy someone's opinion or advice, make sure you're willing to live the lifestyle that they have.
Right.
In other words, if a bum from the street is going to give me financial education or financial advice, I'm going to look at that bum. Wait, why am I going to take advice from this person?
Right.
That's what I'm saying. So, yeah, she could have done better if you rewind the clock and she's her 20-year-old self today.
Yeah.
Because now you have social media.
Right.
And social media has helped me tremendously with many things.
Yes,
like it supersedes and it collapses the time of learning and whatever it is you want to learn. So what I'm saying is she could have learned how to, financial education, how taxes work, personal development, which is something I'll probably touch on later on.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
So you decided to go to the Air Force. How did you, from what you experienced in your childhood and growing up and watching your mother work the long hours, what was instilled in you? What was instilled in you that you took to basic training and then eventually to your first base? Because I knew you were reserves, but even within, even like what did you take to basic and to your first reserve unit to help you, I guess, acclimate to that new world?
Yeah. So it's as simple as just keep going, never give up. And it sounds simple, but when you grow up in Brooklyn, and not every day, but every, I don't know, couple of hours, you hear the fire department drive by, the ambulance, the cops, bottles breaking, gunshots, people arguing, cursing. You hear fighting. You hear the fighting, and the stores are closed. They got the gates. You hear people pushing against the gates because they're fighting. When you grow up in that environment, and you also grow up where your parents and family all have businesses, but they work and work and work and work, and all they know is work. You learn to, you take that in. Because although my mom worked 12-hour days, right, 10 to 10, like I said, we didn't include the before and after. She also made us food. She also washed our clothes. She also kept the house clean. So when you grow up in that environment, you learn that nothing is going to be challenging because you had a strong mom in the house. I wish I could say a father, but I didn't have my father in the house. So you see all that, and you think about what you find as being hard today, and you just got to stop and think back and say, you know what? I remember my mom washing clothes by hand. Still have to run a business. Today we're lazy. Well, not me, because I grew up with just work, just get it done.
Yes, sir.
But today people are lazy. They'll let that laundry pile up 2 weeks. You ain't washing the clothes, like, come on, just throw it in the washing machine, a little detergent, and but now I got my kids, my kids, he just turned 13, my oldest, Joshua, and then my youngest is 7. It's going to be 8 next month.
Yes, sir.
But both of them wash dishes, they clean the house, they wash their clothes and fold their clothes, So these are things that I picked up from my mom, is to never give up, work hard, become the hardest worker in the room, if you will.
What was the hardest thing to, I guess, let go once you got into that environment in basic training? When you're working around you have to work with a whole 50 people that you don't know, growing up in Brooklyn, and things, bottles cracking, fights going on. What was that thing you had to leave behind to function in this new environment?
Quietness. For real, quietness. Like, it was challenging for me. Okay, so Fulton Street between Logan and Norwood.
Yeah.
If you Google it on the map, we lived on the second floor. We owned the building, but we lived on the second floor. The business was right below.
Yes, sir.
The train, the J train,
Yeah.
was, I don't know, I would say from this wall,
Yeah.
probably to that wall.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, here's the window, here's the train. Every 15 minutes.
Wow.
At nighttime, I think it was like every 30 minutes. So growing up with that noise, yeah, it was the ghetto Brooklyn, aka white noise, if you will.
Yeah.
But I didn't really have any challenges outside, because being with 50 or 60 or 100 different people from different states, multiple people from different countries, states all together. One thing you learn in Brooklyn is you learn personal development without knowing you're learning it.
Right.
And in that case, you become this chameleon.
Right.
Where you can rock with anybody.
Yeah.
This guy is loud. Oh, I gotta be loud now.
Yeah.
Or this guy's quiet. He's chilled up. Now I'll become the chameleon to you. Yeah. Or this guy he's a party animal. He like to drink, like to be loud, clothes, colored hair and all this stuff. Now I gotta become that chameleon.
Yeah.
But that's one thing you learn in Brooklyn. So going back to the question, if there were any challenges mingling with the military environment, not really at all. No, I think Brooklyn probably prepares a lot of people to join the military and just become that. You just got to be willing to learn how to take. I call it, if they do it right, I call it constructive criticism, which is something you don't learn in the ghetto.
Right.
We call that, he just looking out for you, man. He's gonna be a tough talk, rough 100%. Talk, but that translates to constructive criticism. Yeah, so I had no challenges, honestly.
What's your craziest BMT story that you can tell?
BMT story.
Craziest.
This one of the let me see. I think his name was Tony. Yeah, Tony. I don't know how it happened, but Tony, black dude. All I know is there was a big commotion, and he was going crazy, ready to kick this white boy's ass, because this white boy thought it was funny to teabag Tony.
Oh man!
And he basically, from what I heard, his nuts touched Tony's toes, and Tony went crazy. So that's probably the craziest story I've encountered. That was like total disrespect, But you know what? It's part of basic training, right? BMT, basic military training.
Right.
It's training mentality and learning how to cope with these different backgrounds, environment, all these different people. But yeah, that's the craziest story.
Speaking of coping with many different people.
Mm-hmm.
I know for me, when I first joined the Air Force, I had to leave a lot of people behind.
Yeah.
I had to leave a lot of, things behind that weren't necessarily the best for me. And some of those people, they, oh, you're better than me now. You know what I mean? Like, you must think you're a hot shot now. Did you have to experience any of that? Like, whenever you went back home to visit family, did you have people come around like, oh, you think you're better than me because,
No, not really. A lot of people was happy of like decisions that I made, and so I went in as an electrician with CE. Right, I joined the reserve. My whole military career is from 2002 to 2011. Towards the end of, I don't know, like October was my last UTA, or Weekend Warrior they call it, right? But so I wouldn't have the same experience as someone that's active, that leave for 2 years, 4 years from where they grew up, right? So the outcome is going to be different, because I was gone for, about, BMT was 6 weeks, and then my electrician, that was, I think, 6.5 months. So I was gone about what, over 8 months, give or take.
Okay.
And then I was back home. And the reason I did that is because I wanted to choose my career.
Right.
As a reservist, you get to choose what you want to do.
Right.
Given that you score in that area with the ASVAB,
Right.
which is electrician.
Right.
So people missed you for a couple of months, and I came back. I didn't have any family or friends that spoke negative about it.
Right.
My family, definitely missed me, especially my cousin and, my brother at the time.
Yes, sir.
He's still around.
Mhm.
But yeah, like I said, there was no major difference. People were actually happy because the area I grew up is crazy. I mean, you asked about Brooklyn. I lived there for 28, 29 years, and I seen in real life about 3 that I can remember, 4 for sure, but only 3 I can kind of remember. People shot, killed right in front of me growing up as a kid. Yeah.
We kind of touched on personal development.
Hmm.
Who was that person while you were in the reserves who mentored you and said, "Hey Mo, you're doing good, but you need to focus. Maybe you need to focus on getting your degree, getting a certification, or taking this class." Who was that person for you that drove you to improve yourself in those ways?
So I want to say my superintendent at the time, that individual, which is Senior Master Sergeant, retired, Bramwell.
Mhm.
He was that yellow personality,
Yeah.
laid back, very educated, cool, everything slow, but
Yeah.
he knew his stuff.
Mhm.
He was the one that inspired me to keep going forward. He said a lot of the guys, a lot of the troops are looking up to you, whether you know it or not. You click with us old school because you're our future.
Mhm.
And whether you realize it or not, like I said, a lot of these troops, whether they show it to you or not, they're actually looking up to you. Like you inspire them.
Yeah.
So he was one of them. Do I remember of any other? It's kind of hard because
Yeah.
it's reserves,
Right,
so
right.
you only see them 1 weekend every month.
Right.
But yeah, as far as I can think right off the back, I would say is Senior Master Sergeant Bramwell. He's in his mid-60s now. Yeah, but black don't crack, so he looked young. He looked the same today than 20 years ago.
You do your reserve time.
Yep,
So you got out in 2011.
correct. Yeah.
Between that time you get married. How was it?
Hmm.
Because usually the military spouse is traditionally female.
Right.
How is it as a male being a military spouse? Do you feel odd about it? Like, what's your thought process?
So, as being a military spouse,
Mhm.
male, like you said, females are higher in that level.
Right.
I don't feel weird at all because I know what I want in life.
Mhm.
And the only challenge I really had was when we went overseas.
Mhm.
I didn't get to work for those 2 years because my first government job was 2018
Yep.
to 2020 when we were stationed here, Hanscom Air Force Base.
Okay.
That was my first government job. And then we ended up going to South Korea.
Mhm.
So we're in South Korea, and I started applying for these jobs, GS-11, GS-12s. The backstory to applying for GS-11 and GS-12 is because when I was here,
Mhm.
Hanscom Air Force Base, when they hired me as a WG-10 step 5, which is the highest step you can get, which is wage grade,
Right.
blue collar, right? Blue collar worker,
Yes,
because
sir.
I'm an electrician.
Yes, sir.
When I got the job, I realized right away it was white collar. Day one, I walked in, and it's nothing like a construction environment.
Yeah.
It's just a desk, a cubicle. Everybody's dressed nice. I got a nice bathroom. It's not a porta potty. I got a break room. It ain't on a bucket sitting down eating for 15 minutes real fast, right? So when I realized that me and two other guys, two individuals that were new to that position, we started doing research and we came across what you call the CE playbook, the PAD 12-03. And in that particular section, it says engineering tech, parentheses, electrician, plumber, HVAC, structures. Here's the other column, eligible, 5 and 7 level, enlisted, LT, officer, civilian, GS11. So I'm scratching the paper and see if, is there a WG10 in there or?
Yeah.
So we dig and we did some research and lo and behold, they brought us in to do GS11 work as WG. So we fought that. And out of the year and 8 months, I only got to enjoy GS11 pay for 5 months before we went to Korea. So pigging back into South Korea now, because I'm a big union guy and I fight for workers' rights, human rights, right? Because I'm big on that, I said to myself, man, I'm already, 3 months in and no work. I'm applying for all these jobs, GS11, GS12, and every one of them are coming back saying not eligible. Why? Because they screwed me and they only let me work for the last 5 months as GS11. So you have to be in that position for a year. So fast forward, I said, you know what? I'm not gonna let them win. It wasn't so much an ego thing, right?
Yeah.
I said to myself, I'm not gonna let them win where I'm just gonna give up and say, let me get a job at the commissary making, I don't know, $20 an hour. Yeah. I'm thinking, man, I'm a 40-year-old male. What am I doing making $20 an hour packing a shelf? Yeah. But yeah, I went 2 years without work with that. Being a male spouse, a lot of people, I live life by a lot of quotes, and you might hear quite a few quotes throughout this podcast.
Yep.
A lot of people live life based on emotions. They make decisions based on emotions versus facts, right? And I say that to say this: I make these decisions based on what the long-term outcome will be. And yeah, I sacrificed 2 years, no work. The wife held us down financially, right?
Yes, sir.
But what did I do in that time? I'm not a gamer, so I don't even own a game system. Neither does my boys, believe it or not. All right? They're timed on how much time they could be on their iPad, right?
Yes, sir.
But I watched YouTube and I learned a lot of verbiage in real estate because I said to my wife, you know what? We're going to start our real estate portfolio, investment properties. And then I also learned negotiating skills when buying a new vehicle. So with those 2 years, I went ahead and I did that, right? And I look at it this way. Sometimes you go to college and you got to pay out of pocket.
Right.
And it might take a little while to pay that off.
Yep.
Well, in this case, I had a free scholarship, right? The wife, right?
Yep.
And I utilized that time to learn real estate verbiage so that when I'm, dealing with a realtor, I know what they're saying, right? And through YouTube, I go to YouTube University. I learn everything on YouTube. Through YouTube, I learned a lot. That's how we found our lender, right? And then through YouTube, my wife's truck that we bought when we got to Miami, I saved us over $7,000 by negotiating skills. Over $7,000. But yeah, everybody's different. Life is challenging. As you move on, life is going to continue to be challenging, and I tell my kids that all the time. And like Jim Rohn said, don't wish it was easier. Wish for more skills.
Yes, sir.
Be prepared.
Speaking of life being challenging, because I know for me, when I first got here, we haven't came back to work yet, so we were all working at home. And just my personality, I need to be you know what I mean? I need to be out. I need to talk to people. I need to, communicate with people. That's just how I am.
Yeah.
And I know it was a struggle for me for those, I think 6-7 months while I was working at home, I kind of lost myself.
Yeah.
Did you ever find yourself losing yourself, or did you ever feel like, man, what am I doing? Like I'm not using my skills.
Right.
That I was blessed with.
Well, of course, we're human, right?
Yeah.
So, and we're emotional creatures, right? Like I said earlier, a lot of times we make decisions based on emotions.
Right.
And that's perfectly fine. It's because it's natural.
Right.
But the question is what do you do to overcome that?
Right.
So what happened with me is 2014, mid-December.
Yeah.
My stepbrother called me up, and he got me into World Ventures, which is people call it Ponzi scheme, and it's not.
Yeah.
So when he got me into it, it was because we love to travel.
Yep.
And he was saying, I see you guys traveling all the time. We've been going to these places, and I don't know what you pay, but this is what I pay.
Right.
And we start looking like, and seeing the pictures and the video, like, is this stuff real, man?
Yeah.
You pay that much and you're getting all this? And he's like, yeah. I said, all right, cool, I'm in. That was the first part of it.
Yeah.
But then he asked me, he says, you don't have to, but if you want to do the business part, right? Because we don't get paid to advertise certain companies like Hennessy. We're not getting paid to advertise Hennessy, right?
Right.
I'm not getting paid to advertise, these work boots, Thorogoods or whatever.
Yeah.
Why not make money by advertising your pictures of these trips that you go on, because without you even realizing, you're advertising the hotel or the resort, and you're not making anything from it, whether you were in the business or not. Because when you go on vacation, what do you do when you're on Facebook and Instagram? Me and the wife and the kids, you got a nice palm tree, you got the blue water, and what are people saying? They're liking it, right? And, man, where you guys at? Man, that water looks so you're not getting paid for that. So he says, no, I'm not pushing it on you. It's just something for you to think about.
Yeah.
If you're looking for an extra set of stream of income.
Yeah.
And I said, cool. So I got into the business part. And then he starts saying, in order to be successful in the business part, here's what made me successful, meaning him.
Yeah.
He says, I go to these events. And these events is what trains you to become a better business person and just a better person overall. So fast forward into today, 2015, right? Because it was just the end of 2014. So 2015 all the way to about 2017. In those 2 years, I went to every 4 major event. Every month and a half, there was a regional event.
Yeah.
And I went to all these events, and I met people, right? And I mingled with all these people. Some were millionaires, some owned multiple real estates, right? But the thing that I learned the most was the personal development aspect of it.
Right.
In that training, one of the things that stick with me, amongst many things, was they said, here are 3 things you don't learn in school. Financial education.
That's true.
They don't prepare you for that.
That's true.
How taxes work. They don't prepare you for that.
That's true too.
And personal development. To break it down real quick, they broke it to 4 colors: blue, red, yellow, green. Blue personality is the person that's a party animal. They're always late to work, right? They love to make people laugh. They're the morale on the job or in the workplace, right? They love the bright colors and the animal pattern, the big earrings, right? Just female and male. Your red personality is the person whose ego is bigger than their bank account. The person who is, what'd you say? I can't, hey, my ego's too big. The red personality, they're normally in leadership positions, Hey, son, Philip, you done with that yet? No, sir. Come on, man. Come on, hurry up. That's the red person right there. They're pushy. They're red in the face, right? Then you got the green personality. Someone that's very formal, dressed nice. They like to read every sentence and cross every T and dot every I before they even sign anything. They'll ask you a million questions. You better have the answer. If not, they're turning away. And then you have the yellow person, someone that's soft-spoken, right? Animal lovers, right? When they give you when you go for a handshake, they'll go in for like a hug. They're soft-spoken. So those four things, along with, you know, personal development, financial education, how taxes work. What are we in 2025? And I started learning about this 2015. So over the 10-year course, that has really molded me into the person that I am today, which continues to make me a better husband, a better father, a better friend, and just to inspire people.
Yes, sir.
Because my goal is to inspire people without knowing that that's what I'm really doing.
Right.
You know? But yeah, man, that's what I got as far as personal development.
So, kind of a controversial question.
That's fine.
So, from just being around the Air Force, whether it was in the reserves or being a spouse or just seeing it every day, do you feel like, for our young enlisted, our young officers, do you feel like that the Air Force is preparing us with those personal development, as far as like, more so like even networking? Like, do you feel that the military is preparing us to network, to get out, to get a job, to be able to mingle with these different people, these real estate agents or millionaires and things like that? Do you feel like the Air Force is providing us?
Well, the Air Force, they provide, I don't know if you see it, but from the DoD side, we get like a lot of emails. They call it brown bag lunch, right? And this provides you people that are looking to buy real estate, like questions and how to handle these questions, what to look for. They teach you how to write resumes, right? There's so much information. It's out there. You just have to go and grab it, right? But here's what I would tell you. I would tell you, don't depend on the Air Force or any organization, if you will, to learn these things like real estate, personal development. But they do have these different options where, you know, you can go to leadership school, which I think leadership school kind of teaches you about personal development, right?
Yes, sir.
But what I will say is become the person you are looking for. And I told my son the other day, I said, you're 13. You're trying to find yourself now. You're trying to find your character. Okay? And I told him the other day, I said, stay improving so that you don't have to prove, if that makes sense. And he said to me, I like that, Daddy. And I said, because right now, at this age, you're going to be looking for validation. Is my hair right? You know, do I have on the latest sneakers? I said, don't look for that. The world today is based on material things. And I might wear the same shirt that I did construction, the same jeans, my work boots. I don't care about that, right? Because people's opinions is not paying my bills unless they have the life that I want, which is good with God, health, family. Then if you go with that, now I'm interested in seeing what you're doing, because some people get carried away with making money and it starts to they're away from the family now, and you know. But yeah, like I said, you know, you just, the best way to put it is become what and who you seek. If you see there's a flaw in the Air Force, in whatever organization you're working in the government, DoD, in your community, the best thing to do is well, how can I make the difference? Because when you're young, you're always looking. You're looking for answers. And you just don't find them. So my advice is, what helped me is the personal development stuff. And I use that word because it kind of scares people away. They think it's boring, right? But when you meet people that have that personal development, now it makes you interested and have a second look, you know? There's a book that I'm reading right now. It's called Atomic Habits by James Clear. And he talks about goals, right? And for an example, we're both in the gym now, right?
Yep.
And the goal is to lose a certain amount of weight or put on a certain amount of muscle or look a certain way.
Yep.
All right. So in this book, he talks about goals. Everybody has a goal. Team A and Team B have the same goal. What's that goal? To win the championship. But what's going to get you there? It's the system.
Right.
And the system is what's often overlooked, right?
Yeah.
The system. The system is, if we both want to lose weight, I'll take it back. I don't want to lose weight. I want to burn fat. There's a huge difference.
Yeah.
If I want to burn fat and put on muscle,
Yeah.
then I need to follow the system. My goal is to burn fat and put on muscle, but how do I get there?
Yeah.
It's the system. When you get up every morning, right? I mean, when you get up in the morning, you got to brush your teeth, right?
Yeah.
That's just the system.
Yeah.
If you stop brushing your teeth and you go, days and months, and you go see the dentist 5 years later, you ain't brushed your teeth once.
Yeah.
Your goal ain't be right, ain't be clean.
Right.
No, it's so jacked up, right? So the book is very helpful. I'm not getting paid to promote this book or anything.
Right, yeah.
Like I said, we always promote these different things and labels without knowing we're promoting it. But what I am promoting is personal development and self-awareness. Be okay with taking constructive criticism from people that are actually making that move and just creating that environment that you're looking for.
Right.
Follow them and it's okay. Tell them, look, I'm cool with some constructive criticism.
Right.
I would like to hear from you anything you feel that I need to work on.
Right.
What can I do better?
Right.
Right? And back to what I'm saying is seek and become what or who you're looking for.
So let's say you got a young airman, or a lieutenant or whatever, just got in. They don't know where to seek it. They don't know how to seek it.
Mm-hmm.
What would you tell them that their first step need to be to start seeking out who they want to be and seeking out how to establish a system to be successful?
Well, here's how I would go about that, right? Quotes.
Mm-hmm.
People don't care how much you know.
Yeah.
They care how much you care.
Yeah.
So get with this individual and you remember this word, sign, SIGN.
Mm-hmm.
Strength, interests, goals, needs. Sign. Learn this from that individual, him or her. And if they are not accomplishing the simplest of things,
yeah.
we need to dig deeper. Emotions.
Yeah.
Hey, Philip, talk to you real quick. Now, you call them Philip if you really know them. But if you don't really know them and you got to keep that military, bearing, then say, Sergeant Philip, hey, let's have a talk, man. Come on.
Yeah.
We'll go out and get some coffee, right?
Mm-hmm.
Go out and get some coffee and sit down with them and say, hey, so how you been, man? I've been good, I could be better. Oh, yeah? Why? What happened? What's going on? Oh, my mom and pops, they're kind of breaking up, and because, I left, and my mom didn't want me to go. My dad said it's good for you.
Yeah.
Things of that. I'm just making things up, right?
Yeah.
So dig deep and don't just stop there. Okay, well, what does mom do for work? What does dad do for work? Dig deep, and this is where personal development really comes in. This is how you learn to help people, and then you start to inspire them, because now something you said that day in that conversation switched off in their head, and now they're more motivated, because why? People care how much you care, not how much you know. Because I could tell you the facts, Hey, Sergeant Taylor, let me talk to you for a minute. Right there, how does that sound? Like, in your head, oh shit, I'm in trouble.
Yeah.
Oh shit, what did I do now?
I messed up,
You'd be like, hey, Sergeant Taylor, let's go for coffee, man. Sergeant, but I got to finish this. What you working on? When does it due? Next month, but you know, I like to be ahead.
Yeah.
Next month, man, come on, let's go.
Yeah.
And you become that friend.
Right.
But it's more of a mentor, right?
Right.
And you take them out. Now, how do you feel? You're like,
More open.
I'm alive. You feel welcome, right?
Yeah.
And that's overall, the military is a big brotherhood and a sisterhood. That's what it should be, right? But that's how I would approach it. I dig deep. If it's an individual that's, you know, I'm not just gonna say airman.
Right.
Yeah, regardless, you know, from E1 to E9, you're an airman, right? You're an airman,
100%.
right? But if the individual is staff sergeant and they're having challenges, right, with the military, or the way the military and the things are going, there's no surprise. The world's changing, and it's changing fast.
Right.
We don't know why things are happening the way they're happening, right?
Right.
But get with that individual, get to know them, get to know about them, right? Look, here's another one, form. FORM, right? F, family. O, occupation. R, recreation. M, the message. Family. So you have brothers and sisters? Yeah, okay. You cool with them? Yeah, man. Your kids? Yeah, I got kids. And a wife too? Oh, well, congratulations, man. I don't meet too many people your age that are actually married and have a kid, you know? Occupation. So before you got into the Air Force, what did you do before this? And they'll tell you, right? Yeah. Recreation. So what do you do for fun? Yeah. And then last, the message. Whatever the message is you want to deliver to them. Yeah. So when you find these things out about a person, right? You now know it becomes an art. You now know how to help them succeed in their career based on the way they like to get there. Yeah. Some people like to walk straight, right? Some people like to walk here, and then you gotta kind of go back and kind of bring them this way. So that's what you're doing. You're bringing them back to the straight line. Regardless, life is not a straight line. Right. We need the up and downs, right, to appreciate the highs, right? But yeah, that's how I would go about it. Back to what I was saying. People don't care how much you know; they care how much you care. Get to know your people before you,
What one piece of advice would you give a young Mo right before he was about to take off on his Air Force journey? What one piece of advice would you give that person right before he stepped on that bus to go to Lakeland?
Well, I'd have a different answer if I was active duty.
Got it.
You don't know what you don't know. And I don't know. I was, I don't know. Maybe it's because I grew up in Brooklyn, or maybe it's just who I am. I'm that person. You put me in any environment, and I'm gonna survive. I become that chameleon, and then I look to inspire. So I really don't have an answer to that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Here's one for you. Let's look at it from this angle, right? Mm-hmm. So let's say you had a male, like a young man who's about to come into the Air Force, or who's about to be a spouse of someone who's in the Air Force. Mm-hmm. What piece of advice would you give him to kind of make sure that he doesn't lose himself as a as men? We have to be moving. We have to be doing something.
So you said a young man who's about to be a spouse in the Air Force? So his wife's joining the Air Force?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so what advice would you give to a young man that is about to become a spouse in the Air Force?
Correct.
That's a good one. I'd have to get to know them and find out, what are their interests, what are their goals, right? Mm-hmm. So for me, everything goes back to personal development, man. When you learn how to control your mind, it won't control you. and you won't make decisions based on emotions. Because, granted, you know, it's like when they say when emotions are high, intelligence is low, right? That's kind of tough. I'd have to ask them what questions they might have. What are some things you're thinking about? Like, I don't know. I don't know how. I would have to be with that person and find out. So give me an example. Like, what are some things that are challenging?
Man, just so for example, how you said there were 2 years where you didn't work. I know for a lot of men, especially like me, if I'm not working, I'm going crazy. You know, I have to be doing something either with my hands, or I have to be doing something where I feel like I'm contributing.
Yeah.
You know.
Okay.
Like that's what I mean. Like, let's say you have a person who's used to working 50 hours a week, 50, 80 hours a week. Now he has to watch kids. He has to watch the kids now, or, you know, if there's a deployment, he has to be there to support for the deployment and support for the TPYs. And he's not used to that. Yeah. You know, he doesn't come from that background. It's not what he saw growing up. Right. And now it's different from him. You know, what?
That's a good one. So if it's their first time being a male spouse, you know, watching the kids, given that the kid's young, they can't get into CDC, right? Or look at it in the positive way. Not too many fathers actually get that experience, right? What would you do different? You know, now you have this kid, your kid, young. You get to enjoy all those moments with them. Mom is out working. Mom gonna be a little jealous because she's missing the opportunity, right? So it goes back to life is definitely what you make it. You know, the person that says they can and the person that says they can't, they're both right. Think about that, right? Take those opportunities to learn things like I did. Get on YouTube. I had hours on YouTube. That was what I did. I didn't really watch movies or series. People at work, you know, oh, you didn't see this? Nah. You know, if just pick up a skill. Today's time is so much easier with social media.
I agree.
Especially YouTube.
I agree.
To pick up so many things. Pick up a podcast, right?
Yes, sir.
Be one of the first. Learn how to get into trading, because that's something that I also did when I was, you know, in South Korea.
Yes, sir.
I learned how to trade. There's so many opportunities out there. Make an investment and get a 3D printing machine. Start printing some cool, you know, things. You know, be the first to make these cool crock things, these little gadgets, and sell them for $5 a pop.
Yes, sir.
Make a trademark out of it. So there's so much opportunity. There's absolutely no reason why someone can't be, I'm not saying successful, but bring some type of an income in. There is absolutely no reason. If you were in Korea, you could have went and go make $20 an hour, you know, packing bags, but that's not what I wanted to do.
Right.
Because after fighting for a while, but now that I look back in it, look back at it, I'm like, you know what? I probably should have did that. But here's what I'll tell you. In that time off, my youngest, Josiah, his school stopped at, I think it was, I don't remember if I had to pick him up at like 1 o'clock. Wow. So if I had a normal job,
it wouldn't
have worked out, right? Then Joshua got home or got off of school at 2 or 2:30. Same thing applied. A normal job wouldn't work. But what did that do? It gave me a lot more time to be with them, right? Taught them how to ride the bike. You know, we'll make some different dishes in the kitchen, right? Teach them how to clean, wash the dishes. Don't ever think you lose your man card because, you know, you're vacuuming the house, or you're cooking, or you're preparing dinner for the wife when she come home, right? She's working late. You have to be that example and get rid of that, you know, oh, man ain't supposed to do it. No,
Yeah.
no. Maybe a single man ain't supposed to, but a husband,
Yeah.
you help your wife out because at the end of the day, you guys are a team,
Yes,
right?
sir.
When you were single, it was about me. When you was with her, it was about us. Now you have kids, it's about them, right? But don't forget your spouse too. You need your alone time.
Yep.
You know, get that date. Go out once or every 2 weeks, right?
Yep.
Get that in there because the one thing we don't realize when we have these young kids, we're preparing them how to live outside, but no one's preparing us how to live without them. And you're gonna miss those days that it was loud and now the house is quiet and you're like, well, what do we do now, right? And you learn that with the grandparents. But yeah, back to what you're saying is there's, like I said, there's absolutely there's a freaking million and one things to learn with the internet. Become the first entrepreneur to do something different.
Right.
I couldn't even think of what to tell you because there's so many,
Yeah.
if you're an artist, create a drawing,
Yeah.
pop them onto t-shirts now, sell the t-shirts, do something. Yeah.
Last question. What is your biggest accomplishment? Throughout your entire life, what would you say is your biggest accomplishment that you're proud of?
My biggest accomplishment would be becoming the father I always wanted for my kids, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
That's my biggest accomplishment. Like I said, I grew up without my dad. He's still around. He tried to make contact when, I think in 2022, he tried to make contact back again.
Yeah.
But the conversations on the phone, there was nothing positive or growth, if you will, out of it.
Yeah.
And I said, you know what? You were absent for 20 years.
Yeah.
And I don't know what reason you want to come back into my life now. But the things that are coming out of his mouth, I didn't tell him this.
Yeah.
I just cut him off, right?
Yeah.
The things that are coming out of his mouth weren't things that I resonate, and were definitely things I don't want around my kids, right? But yeah, my biggest accomplishment is being the father I've always wanted for my kids, and now I get to create that chapter in my book. Like, I can sit back now and know that I've done a good job. Once my kids are growing and out of the house, I can sit back and comfortably say, I know that I've done a good job being that father, right? It ain't about, teaching them how to ride a bike or teaching them how to fight.
Yeah.
That ain't a father. A father is one that prepares your kid for the world.
Yeah.
And different times require different things, right?
Yeah.
But going back to personal development, for me, it's learning and teaching them about personal development.
Yes, sir. Because
those emotions will lead to mold them to become that individual. If they don't feel loved at home, especially 13, 12, 14, if they don't feel loved at home, they're not getting that attention. Every time you talk to mom and dad and they're like this, hold on. No. You put that phone down, put it away, and straight eye contact. Yeah. If they don't feel love and connection at home, they're going to look for it elsewhere, whether it's a good or bad, inspiration, right? And then you go back to regret. I regret not doing this or doing that. I wish I gave my kid more time. And, as far as like what inspired me to be who I am today, I think one of the most important topics in today's world for young men is, was there a father in the house? Was the father present? Was there at least a father role in the house, right? This father, did he have integrity, meaning that when it's, you're older and now it's you and him and you're out, is he looking at other girls, right? Is he doing that? Because if he is, he's disrespecting mom, because he won't do that with around mom. That's not a man. A man is one that loves their wife, right? their bodies change. You know, beauty don't last.
Yep.
What lasts is your relationship and your love for that person, right? Unconditional.
Right.
But yeah, my biggest accomplishment is that, and I show my boys without showing them.
Mm-hmm.
I indirectly show them how you treat a woman, right? Get the wife flowers here and there, no celebration,
Yeah.
you know, compliment her, let her know that, you know, you're an amazing mom.
Right.
You're a great leader. Your people at work care for you, can tell, right? She showed me the video when they set up all her birthday, and I'm like, damn, who did that? And she said, Shirt and a bunch of other people.
Yeah.
And that made me realize, right? Like, your people really, really care for you, because if they didn't,
Yep.
you know, and that's the impact
Yeah.
that you want, right? So, yeah, I gotta say that statistics prove that a lot of people, not only prove, but it shows, right? Same thing. It proves that a lot of people that grow up without a father
Mm-hmm.
end up not making great decisions,
Right.
right?
Yep.
You need that structure.
Mhm.
No matter how big and badass the wife is in the military,
Yeah.
right? When it comes to the kids, she still call me, babe. Josiah's not listening, and next thing you know, Josiah like starts running. He go do what he got to do.
Yeah.
You need that male figure
Yeah.
in the house, and you know, men have it hard. There's a lot to talk about mental health in men and stuff like that.
Right.
But to me, my opinion is not everybody else's opinion. We all have one, right? So my opinion, not only my opinion, but my experience. Let's go with that.
Yep.
My experience with personal development has led me to where I am today, and who I became.
Yes, sir.
One of the questions that are asked towards the end of an interview,
Yeah.
for a job,
Yeah.
is one of the simplest questions, but most don't know how to answer it. And it's, so Mr. Phillip, last question for you is, why should we hire you? And most people start thinking like, well, you know what,
Yeah.
I'm always gonna work on time.
Yeah.
I get things done. You know, I'm a hard worker. Now, you as the person hiring that individual, me, I would say, well, I expect you to be here on time. I expect you to do your work.
Yeah.
Right? And, you know, I don't always expect you to be a super hard worker, but I expect you to be a hard worker.
Yeah.
So that says nothing, right? But here's how I answer things. I say, because I add value. And going back to facts tell,
Yep.
stories sell, right? Facts tell, stories sell. I'm going to share a story that is true, because when I was in the trade doing electrical, I inspired a lot of these apprentices that were only second-year apprentices and third-year apprentices, and they have a 5 to 6 year program before they become a journeyman.
Mm-hmm.
Lo and behold, they became foremen.
Yeah.
Some became general foremen.
Mm-hmm.
So how can you add value? You want to be a part of that team, right? You've been told that you inspire others,
Yes, sir.
and it has to be true. So that's the difference. But yeah, one of my major accomplishments is becoming that father and continuing to become the dad that I've always wanted for my kids, because, you know, your kids become a product of you. If you talk a certain way in the whole household, guess what? They're going to pick it up.
Just like
Why?
you.
Because kids don't do what you do, they do what you say, right?
Mo, this is a great time.
Oh, no, thank you. No problem, man.
Yes, sir.
Of course, of course.
That's a wrap. See y'all when I see you.